and he is happy about it. And he knows that verse. He's done and he regrets it or feels bad about it. He said, a chassid, he's not sure even about the mitzvahs that he's done. Just because you did a mitzvah, you're happy you did a mitzvah. Who says maybe you had pride when you did the mitzvah? You know what the Kotzker says about pride? He says somebody who has pride, even when they're doing a mitzvah, it is avodah zarah. It's not like avodah zarah. It is avodah zarah. So, just because you're doing the mitzvah and you're keeping the observing of the law, who says you're really doing what God wants? That's one of the beautiful things in Chassidus, Kabbalah as well, but Chassidus really beautifully in many different ways tackles this issue. None as radical as the Meshilah. Others, there's a section in Tanya that deals with this same concept of it's not enough to do the mitzvah. Did the mitzvah do you? Right? That's the question. In other words, did the mitzvah make you a vessel to the divine light? Or were you like, I'm doing a mitzvah? You know, like, what was it when you did the mitzvah that happened?
And what would it mean to be a vessel of the divine light? I mean,
that we have to learn Tanya for it. There's a beautiful teaching.
How does this manifest
to realize that to do a mitzvah, I'm just going to give you short because it's not. I just brought that up.
I know.
But to do a mitzvah is to realize that when you do the mitzvah, you give up your selfness, your ego, and you are just doing the mitzvah to unite the Shekhinah, the Shem Bichud Kutsher Bichud Shechinte, to unite the Holy One, blessed be He, and the Shekhinah, which is your divine life, the life that you have, your soul, together, where you're no longer thinking about yourself and doing something for yourself, but you're doing something that's truly for the source of all being. So when you do the mitzvah, it's an act where your neshama can be like a flame with its source, can be connected to its source. So in Chassidut, one of the emphases was no longer just to do the mitzvah, but to have the mitzvah really come through you, for the mitzvah to affect change, and you and who you are. And in Katz, in Pshischa, and in Meshilah, the Yehuda paradigm you could see as this strongest extremist example of not just fitting in and conforming, even to halachic bas, but to the mitzvah transforming you into something else. So much so that it's not about just like, you see, the Yosef Jew, he's saying, what the put down for the Yosef is that King David, and Yehuda says, God, I'm going to let you win. You see, because when I keep all the halachot, it's like I'm saying, God, I'm going to be the perfect person. I will control my destiny. I will do what I'm supposed to do. But when I say, God, I want you to use me as your vessel, which means even if I fall, but I'm really falling because you're setting me up to it, and I'll lose because it'll look like I'm a sinner because I did, Yehuda did what he did. Ma'aseh D'Tamar, he looked like he was a sinner. David did what he did. But if it's going to happen through that I'm going to help your cause, that's all I need to do. I don't need to do what I need to do. I need what you need me to do. There's a story with one of the disciples of Reb Simcha Bunim, that he was on his deathbed. And as he was dying, I guess he lived a little bit longer just to tell this to his people, everybody gathered around him and they said, so, what do you say? So this is what he said. Not that moment, but a little bit later. So when everybody came around, it was like this moment, like Reb Shimon Bar Yochai, and the Idrazuta, like, one of these great mystical gatherings, all these great rabbis gathered around. And I was going to say, Shema Yisrael, Shem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. I felt I had just enough strength to say the Shema with a very nice, beautiful, long Echad, long, drawn-out Daled. And then I would die, and it would be like this perfect death. Because, by the way, the Kabbalah is very into dying. The Zohar, I learned the Zohar, we had a shiur this week. Great stuff on dying this week. So I was going to die this Zoharistic way. You know, it was like, and he said, and that was the Yetzer Hara. He said, they said, he said, that was the Yetzer Hara, to make me die in this, like, scripted way of, like, oh yeah, I'm so holy. So, the idea is, the Shulchan Aruch is a script. The Zohar is a script. It's all a script if you're just trying to, like, be the perfect, what is it again? It's another ego trip. So, different people had different ways of shaking it up. And the Meshalach had this radical way of shaking it up, which is saying, sometimes Yehuda is saying, like, I don't know, I can't deal with the law like this. Now,
one more thing that
yeah.
I didn't understand is ולכן לא עליו האשם. I mean,
he's not guilty.
He's really off the hook.
He's off the hook. God made him do it.
Why?
Why?
How is, I'm just trying to understand.
How? Why? I don't know.
No, how is not being able to overcome his taiva and like how is that?
That's a good question. I wouldn't try this at home. I wouldn't say that this means if you feel like you can't overcome your taiva, that God made you do it.
That could get us in trouble, couldn't it?
That's a way of looking at it. That you shouldn't do it, but if it happens, you shouldn't like kill yourself completely.
Maybe that's one way of looking at it.
I think that Yehuda represents taking personal responsibility for his actions and the consequences of his actions, and for the whole pattern of connectedness that his whole life represents, even when he makes mistakes, whether it's with Tamar or whether it's Yosef. Those two things is what makes him so special.
But
It's not like someone else is doing it to him. It's his ability.
It's his ability to do it. Okay, I like what Libby's saying. You have a very good question. I don't have an easy answer, but I will talk about it. Somebody else say something? Okay. So listen. Just the next page is another example of somebody who was a falsehood was being done under the legal system. There was a guy who said that he had paid back a loan when in fact he hadn't. So he was taken to court and he was made to swear that he paid it back. So what he did is he gave the fellow that he owed the money to a cane that had all the gold in it. So he thought he was going to take the cane back. He was just like, whatever. So he was swearing, and in the middle the cane broke and the gold came out. So they saw basically what he was doing, the trick that he was doing. He wasn't going to swear falsely, but he wasn't really paying him back. You can argue that it's not really paying somebody back if they don't know they have it. There's another teaching like that. But the point is, you get the point. And the point is, judgment and halacha, for that matter, don't always uncover everything. There's some things that are missed in that process. And I'm on the next page, by the way. It's like this in everything. This is the source of life in Yehuda. To look to God in everything. Not just to act in a way of, you were inculcated and trained, this is the way people pray every day, this is the way people act, this is what you do. So even if you did this yesterday, that's not what you automatically just do today. You don't want to rely on yourself. God should enlighten you anew from what He wants from you. This concept will sometimes obligate somebody to do something that doesn't correspond with the law. There's a time to do to God. You have to break a mitzvah sometimes to do what God wants. That's one way the Talmud interprets that verse. That's why these two tribes oppose one another. In the future they'll be